Coming up on the stage right now, I want to introduce two incredible individuals. First of all, I want to introduce one of our F.R.E.E. International missionaries, a hero, boots on the ground, an individual that is helping to rescue and recover the victims of human trafficking right here in the United States. Can you give a warm Illinois Student Ministries welcome to F.R.E.E. International missionary Andrew Denton? I also want to bring up on the stage really quickly right now an incredible young man, and a young man that is part of the Illinois Student Ministries family. This is a young man who is sacrificing and who is using his creativity and his talents to help missionaries like Andrew reach people who are captives. I want to introduce you to an incredible young man who is doing some incredible work, even here while he's at Momentum, from Springfield, Illinois. Give it up for Zac Rose. Zac, where's your youth group at, man? I can't tell. All right, sit down. Just kidding, I love you guys. So, first of all, we're just going to take 5 quick minutes here, 10 quick minutes here, and we're just going to talk to these two about what F.R.E.E. International is doing to reach people who are trapped in human trafficking. So at the end of service today, Andrew, these students are going to be opening up their pocketbooks, they're going to be opening up their wallets, they're going to be opening up their purses. There's going to be people who are going to be writing checks, and they're going to be giving towards an organization called Speed the Light. Speed the Light is a student-driven missions initiative in the Assemblies of God where we take the money that you give and we equip and resource missionaries like this to do the work that God has called them to do. There are people who go and there are people who send. And today we have the opportunity to be among those who are senders. We want to be senders so that missionaries like this can reach the lost and can spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. So, Andrew, what exactly is F.R.E.E. International? How does F.R.E.E. International exist as an organization to rescue and recover the victims of human trafficking here in the United States?
Awesome, man. So good to be here. Hey, what's up, Illinois? So honored to be with you guys and Pastor Chris at the helm of Illinois Student Ministry. So F.R.E.E. International, F.R.E.E. is an acronym. It stands for Find, Restore, Embrace, and Empower.
Wow.
And that's exactly what we do across the board with victim services. So we go and we find, we restore, we embrace, and we empower victims of human trafficking across the board. It started in 2007. It's an Assemblies of God missions organization, and we are impacting specifically, we go after underage victims of human trafficking right here in the U.S.
So you say underage victims. What does that mean? Like, give us some context about the average age of kids who are trafficked in the United States, and what are some of the things that you're seeing in the field run
Absolutely.
Real time with some of these underage victims?
Yeah, absolutely, man. The average age of those being trafficked right now in the cases that we're dealing with is between 12 and 14 years old. So in the last couple years, every year, every state, all 50 states, there have been prosecuted human trafficking cases of underage students, minors, even in cities that are not as big as Chicago. I mean, small rural areas. This is actually happening everywhere. So if you know where the enemy's going to attack, you know where they're attacking, man, that's where we put our efforts. That's where we go in to vulnerable neighborhoods and make an impact. So that average age, 12 to 14 years old.
That's incredible to think about. Like, I have a 13-year-old son. I have a 10-year-old daughter. I have an 8-year-old son, and this is my kids that are here are the average age of kids who are being trafficked. And so when you say trafficking, what does that mean? Because I think we have an idea of what trafficking looks like and what it might consist of. But what are some of the more insidious veins of trafficking? When you say trafficking, what does that mean?
Yeah, I think one of the common things that we get wrong when it comes to trafficking is we always think that it means somebody's being moved, and that's That's actually part of it. I mean, an actual human being is being moved from one location to the other. But really the truth about trafficking is there's an exchange of value. And that looks completely different than the term sex trafficking, when we have this image of a prostituted woman walking down the street, like our typical movie show. Well, actually, it only has to be an exchange of value. And so when there's a 12 or 13 or 14-year-old girl who gets in a relationship with a guy who's older than her, and they met online, and she's in that place of vulnerability where she needs something met. We always say a student or a minor is running away from something, or they're running to something. There's a need in their life. And so trafficking, all it has to be is an exchange of value. It can be a sex act for a new cell phone. It can be a sex act for a place to sleep or a meal. And that actually technically is the term for sex trafficking when it comes to prosecuting the offense in a court of law. So it looks a lot different than what we think.
Yeah, so today, students just like Zach, and I'm gonna get to Zach in just 1 second, but I had just one more question, one or two more questions for you really quickly. These students at the end of this service today are going to have the opportunity to give resources to Free International with their money, with their giving, with their generosity. We're going to ask these students to sacrifice today so that you have what you need to go out and get these underage victims. And so I guess my question to you is this: can you tell us practically what that means? Can you just give us a story?
Absolutely. A few years ago, we work every year at the Super Bowl, and we go in with volunteers from that local area and volunteers from around the nation. We go in and we do strategic missing searches for students who are minors who are missing in those vulnerable neighborhoods around the Super Bowl, because there's such a huge increase in sex trafficking. And a few years ago, we had a case where a young girl we'll call her Sarah today, just to keep her name confidential. But Sarah, from the age of 12 years old, she was forced to be a prostitute on the streets of Phoenix, Arizona. Man, in back alleys, scummy hotels. Dude, I would say the worst life we could imagine, and especially for a 12-year-old. I have two daughters. I know what that feeling is like when you think about your own daughters being in a life like this. And this wasn't the life that she had chosen to live. It was the life of the man who he was pimping her out. He was controlling her. He met her online. He was older, and it was a life that she didn't choose. She wasn't the one who chose this life. And we make that mistake all the time. We think that they choose the life, or there's young ladies in prostitution who they choose this life. But the real truth is it's about 96% of those in the life who have been forced into the life. There's a very small percentage who actually choose to be in that life. And really, if they choose to be in that life, they're not doing it because of their own, there's some situation that caused them to be that desperate.
Yeah.
And so Sarah, she was forced to sleep with as many as 20, sometimes 30 different men a night at 12 years old. At one point, there was a moment where the guy controlling her, he wanted to psychologically condition Sarah, and this is a common thing that happens in trafficking cases. He had actually dressed his friends as police officers and sent them into her room. They had badges, the uniforms. They had prepared. They walked in, and they beat her, and they abused her, and they raped her. And they said, if you ever try to run away from this man who's controlling, if you ever try to run away from this guy, and you try to get help, this is what we'll do. This is what will happen to you. So we were able to, through our strategic outreach in these vulnerable neighborhoods, we were able to reach out to Sarah at a moment of desperation years later. So this was the beginning of her story. Man, we got to sit across the table from her, look into her eyes, see the hopelessness, see the complete blank stare coming back from her at 21 years old. We got to listen to her story, and because of our teams going into vulnerable neighborhoods, we were able to mobilize. And one of the key aspects of the work that we do is being able to mobilize, go from stationary locations to be able to go into vulnerable neighborhoods and to be able to respond quickly, and we do that through vehicles. And so we were able to mobilize quickly, get her the help she needed, and get her out. Man, you'll never forget the text you get when you see a text that says, hey, we were able to pay for Sarah's first year of college. You'll never forget a picture when you get a picture of a baptism certificate. You'll never, and it says Sarah's name on there, and it says she's given her life to Jesus. Man, you'll never forget those texts when you realize that it's the power of missions and it's the power of Speed the Light that made that happen. Man, that's the bridge between reaching just a few girls and reaching thousands of girls in our nation today.
Amen. And Andrew said something powerful to me even this morning when we were preparing this conversation. He said, there's a difference between awareness and actual prevention. And today, you guys get to make the shift from awareness to prevention. Awareness is a part of prevention, but it is not prevention as a whole. And I think what we're talking about is we have a generation that exists right now that is very good at mobilizing socially and shaking their fists and shouting at the darkness instead of being a light in the darkness. And what we're going to challenge you today is to actually move from awareness to prevention by helping to equip F.R.E.E. International with the mobile response units they need to pull up in these cities and start to rescue girls like Sarah, who at 12 years old was being conditioned to fear the police, to fear people who could help her, to fear people who could rescue her. That's evil. If you are 12 years old in this place, I'm going to ask you to just go ahead and stand to your feet. If you are 12 years old or younger, all over this room right now, you are looking at the face of people who are the same age as those who are being trafficked in the United States. Like right now, in a hotel room, right now, with a pimp, right now, with a sexual abuser, right now. While we are in here, comfy, sipping our coffee, talking about it, it's happening. You can take your seats. And students like you and students like Zach are doing things to make sure that this ends immediately. Zach, what are some of the things that you're doing right now? First of all, why did this catch your heart as a teenager? Why did this grab your attention? Why is this so powerful to you?
Yeah. So last year at Momentum, the service, it was touching my heart. I feel like we're supposed to go above and beyond what we think we can do. And that's when we really see God move.
Amen.
Faith is when you act on what you're thinking and you actually do something about it.
Yes.
I just feel like as students, last night we were learning about the heart and the mind, and how sometimes we can feel things, but after a while you just kind of get tired of feeling it. It's so much more rewarding hearing stories like when they can go in and rescue these people who have been trafficked. It's the fruit you get from it and just the reward you get from it. It's not for our glory. It's not for me up here on this stage getting to talk in front of all you. It's not for my glory. It's for the glory of the God we serve, the glory of the God who saves. And so, yeah, that's
Amen. Hey, Micah, I think we're just going to let Zach take over. That's a good word. And that's spiritual maturity on your part. I am blown away. What are you doing right now? How are you using your creativity to help send money, raise money for missionaries like Andrew?
Yeah. So this year I was trying to think of ideas of what should I do? And so everyone wears a shirt, right? And so I was talking to my sister. She's all into graphic design, and we were thinking we could do a shirt. And so, with the awesome help of my youth pastors, give a round of applause to all your youth pastors right now.
Amen. Come on.
With the help of my youth pastors, I was able to just get the funds to start making these T-shirts. And so, as you can see, there's probably a word on here you don't know. And the word is Greek for "it is finished." And so, when Jesus died on the cross, he said, "It is finished," and he paid the price for us. And there's also a barcode and "not for sale" on there. And it's just the idea that, especially in this case with the trafficking, we have been paid for. We have a God who loves us, who paid the price for us. And we shouldn't ever forget that. And so just keep that on your hearts. Keep praying about that. And don't be afraid to step out and do something about it. The shirts will be back in the back over by those double doors where you came in, over by the merch back there. They're $10 a piece. All the money is going to F.R.E.E International and just helping the cause with human trafficking.
Come on.
Yeah, thank you for listening.
You know, and I love what Zach was saying. I love what Andrew was saying. You know, he was saying that the definition of trafficking is that there is a transaction of value. And with human trafficking, what we're seeing is perverted people paying significantly less than what that soul is worth. And what we're seeing with Jesus is a transaction of value as well, where he stepped off of his throne in heaven to pay for us. God, who is so high above us, so magnificent, so worthy of praise, said, no, let me show you your real value. Let me show you your real worth. They don't get to define it, I do. Can you join with us today at the end of this service to show these people their real value and their real worth? I'm about 5 minutes over, so I'm just going to ask you very quickly, Andrew, can you say what's on your heart right now to these students, and in particular, Zach and what he's doing?
Man, first of all, I got to say thank you for what you're doing, bro. You know, there's raising awareness, there's prevention, but then there's being a leader. And man, we need so many leaders in this cause. And here's the thing about a cause or an issue. We all know trafficking is happening. We know it's in our cities. We know it's in our communities. It's an issue. It's a cause. But let me tell you, man, it's more than that. It's people. Yep. It's people. It's not an issue. It's not a cause. It's people who need help. Man, it's our job as the church. It's not the government's job. It's not the state's job. It's not the school's job. It's not some other entity's job. It's the church's job, man, to go after the widow and the orphan and the needy. And, man, that is what Speed the Light is doing. That's what leaders like you are doing, my friend. We are so appreciative of you. Thank you, Illinois Student Ministries, for what you're doing. We are so blessed by you. We are impacting this world, not just raising awareness, which is great, but we're impacting this world. We're changing lives. And that's through Speed the Light. Thank you guys so much.